From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt. Our colleague Noel will be right back.
And he will no doubt return with some awesome adventure stories. We look forward to them. They call me Ben. We are joined, as always, with our super producer, Alexis, codename Doc Holliday Jackson. Most importantly, you are you. You are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. It is Thursday, if you're hearing this when it comes out, which means long-time conspiracy realist. This is our moment for messages from you. Matt, Doc, and I are going to play it a little bit shoot from the hip, fast and loose today. We thought we would dive into a couple of emails, a couple of letters from home, a couple of voicemails. And let's see, Matt, before we get going, just checking in. How's everything on your end? No poop balloons from the neighbors, hopefully.
No, I did this fun thing, though. I'm going to tell you about it right now. It has nothing to do with the show. Congratulations. Here's a story from Matt's life. My son and I got one of these water slide things. It's not a water slide when you think about one if you go to Whitewater or one of these parks, right? It's a slip and slide. That's a reference that kids from the 80s and 90s would probably get. Well, we got one of those things, set it up in the old front yard there, set it off, and spent 2 days just going to town on it. It was amazing. And in between those 2 days, there was a thunderstorm. So there was a lot of ground moisture on top of all the water that this slip and slide thing was already, you connect a hose up to it and it sprays water on itself to keep it all, I guess, lubricated so you can slide down it. Well, what I didn't realize is that my old big body is not like a kid going down a slip and slide anymore. And when the weight of my body impacts the ground, it pushes all of that mud that's being generated out of the way. So basically, my son and I had a great time on Memorial Day and ruined my front lawn. There's a story from Matt's life.
How's the lawn doing?
Destroyed currently. You do anything fun for Memorial Day or anything interesting?
I've been with me the whole time. I'm not sure what would interest other folks. You know what I mean?
I do not know what you mean. You are a fascinating individual.
That's very kind. We've got some cool fiction coming out. Hopefully, we've got some stories that are very true that may show up in Stuff They Don't Want You to Know presents. And like you, like many people in this part of the global woods, I also witnessed with great awe and astonishment the storms that rolled in. Who's our buddy who always says the fog rolls in?
Viking.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Viking. Thought of you when the rains came through.
It's usually the fog, though, right?
It's always the fog.
Yeah.
The fog rolls in. We have received so much fascinating correspondence. Matt, Doc, thought it would be interesting to learn about something that I had never heard of before, and perhaps you have, perhaps you're read onto it, man, but I had never heard of something called the Atlas Network. Had you heard of this?
What is that? I know Atlas Games, and that's it.
Yeah, I know Atlas, the big battle mech. I know Atlas, the mythological figure, right? But to answer this question, we have to go to Concerned Kiwi. Concerned Kiwi writes in and says the following. Hey guys, longtime listener, love the show. I was wondering if you gentlemen could take a deep dive into the Atlas Network. They're the head of an international far-right network of 500 plus think tanks and lobby groups that manipulate democracies globally. They're known as the think tank that creates think tanks. They have links back to the Koch brothers, Philip Morris Tobacco, and ExxonMobil, to name but a few. They're extremely active in my country, New Zealand, which isn't that surprising, since New Zealand is often used as a political testing ground by foreign bad actors. Since this is a bit of an in-depth piece of correspondence off air, we decided we would round robin it. It's quite a tale.
The Atlas Network are associated with numerous lobby groups and businesses here, including the Taxpayers Union, I'm assuming.
Super innocuous name.
I think that's what it is. It says Tay-payers, but
I think it's taxpayers.
I think it's taxes. And most concerningly, the New Zealand Initiative, which reads like a who's who of prominent New Zealand businesses and business elites. They've also groomed and supported David Seymour, leader of our local Libertarian Party, ACT, who regularly and currently share power in government. But you can't ask Seymour any questions about the Atlas Network or he'll call you a conspiracy theorist, even though he worked for Atlas members in his youth, was photographed during an Atlas Network event and called the Atlas Network, quote, old friends, in a speech that can be found on his own party's website. The Atlas Network is also prevalent in Australia, Britain, Germany, and other countries around the world. Sounds like Five Eyes to me. Come on, guys. What's going on? And it concludes in this paragraph, I'm not aware of their activities in the U.S.
So apparently neither were we, concerned Kiwi. The missive continues. The Atlas Network and their associated organizations attempt to feign political neutrality, but as their name would suggest, they support the tired old libertarian ideas of small government, big business, free markets, market solutions, and widespread deregulation. I don't know why I'm doing that voice. That voice is editorial. Anyway, continues. So, as you'd expect, they consistently prioritize corporate interest over public welfare. The Atlas Network supports, trains, consults, and sometimes directly funds their member groups, and allegedly manipulates some political parties directly. ACT. Projecting undue influence on local politics and interfering with the policy-making process.
Oh, boy. Everybody loves a lobbying group. Let's go on to the next paragraph. They sometimes coordinate overarching strategies designed to influence the public vote, often preying on fear and division, dog whistling about populist issues, most notably around issues pertaining to indigenous rights. Interesting. In New Zealand, their local mouthpieces took part in a fear-mongering campaign against various proposed policies that would have benefited Maori. In Australia, there's evidence they helped organize a widespread disinfo campaign to manipulate the public into voting against the Voice Australia, which is an initiative designed to give Aborigines an increased political presence. In Germany, there are claims they were involved in the criminalizing of climate protesters.
So much for freedom!
In Africa, they've been criticized for their alleged support of authoritarian regimes.
Alleged. Nice one, concerned Kiwi. Continues. The global influence of the Atlas Network seems pretty pervasive, to say the least. Yet, we never hear much about them. It would be great if you guys could help change that. It seems to me that the Atlas Network, with their level of undue power and influence, is definitely not something that should be met with a shrug. And here, concerned Kiwi provides several fantastic links. Like we always say in the email, take us to the edge of the rabbit hole. We'll do the rest. And says, concludes with, thanks for consistently holding power to account, concerned Kiwi. And Matt did a little bit of digging here. First off, thanks to CK on this one. The Atlas Network is definitely a real thing. Possibly a future episode, in my opinion. It was formerly known as the Atlas Economic Research Foundation, and it's been around for a while. It was created in 1981. But, by a guy who's called the, quote, Johnny Appleseed of anti-regulation groups. What a weird street name.
What a horrible idea.
It's also, is it based on Atlas Shrugged? It leads us to a fascinating and perhaps disturbing conversation because, as Kiwi points out, as concerned Kiwi rightly notes, this is an incubator for other think tanks. And just like walking through a grocery store, buying different flavors of cereal, if you are not careful, you won't know that they are associated together. I learned about another thing called the State Policy Network, which is across, it's like ALEC again, man. I just, Doc, if you could please beat me here. The conspiracy is real. It seems there is f***ery afoot.
Yeah. Might I read from Mr. Anthony Fisher's little bio here on atlasnetwork.org?
Oh, please.
This is under the heading Our Creation Story. Now, you got to get through this first part in order to really feel the impact of the second paragraph. Here we go.
Take us there. Let's get in the moment.
Atlas Network's founder, Anthony Fisher, knew what it meant to find your own place in the world after his father was killed in the First World War when Anthony was only 2 years old. He went on to serve as a pilot in the Royal Air Force in World War II. Seeing Britain embrace a socialist economic agenda at the end of the war, Anthony was dismayed by the subdivision of individual enterprise in service of a government-led centralized policy. He came across an abridged edition of F.A. Hayek's The Road to Serfdom, which proposes that central planning inevitably erodes individual liberty and enables tyranny. Hayek's philosophy not only influenced Fisher's own career trajectory, but also inspired him to think of ways to drive grassroots level change that promoted free market opportunities.
All right. So also, for context here, before we move to the second paragraph where things get really juicy, Friedrich Hayek is an old school Austrian economist, or he's thought to be a leading luminary of what we call the Austrian school. And I would say that they got treated as gurus rather than as social scientists. So I'd say there's a lot of ideology at play here.
Yeah, dude. Apparently he went to the United States in 1981 and established the thing that became Atlas Network. Mm-hmm. And it calls it a process. What the Atlas Network does is institute a process that helps think tanks, quote, unshackle the power of individual liberty and enterprise.
Tight.
God, that sounds great, man.
It sure does.
And they partner with almost 500 think tanks in over 100 countries that drive change in ideas, culture, and policy, remove barriers to opportunities, and empower individuals to live a life of choice.
Do you know why I stopped you, young man? Well, officer, I guess we're both removing barriers to opportunity.
Well, yeah, we're both just living lives of choice, man.
Yeah. So also, Fisher is fascinating because in 1952, he went to the U.S. for the first time, and he visited a thing called the Foundation for Economic Education. So this guy, the progenitor of Atlas Networks, has been 10 toes down for quite a while. He made his money off chicken farms. True story. He started England's first battery chicken farm. This is coming from SourceWatch, which is a fantastic, if imperfect, resource for a lot of this larger context. And like you said, Matt, he keeps going back and forth with the U.S. and with these various somewhat ephemeral institutions, these incubators of ideological thought. It was through this thing called the Atlas Network now. It was through that he was able to extend his beliefs worldwide, remove the barriers, we suppose, remove the barriers and allow people the opportunity to hear him say his opinions as though those opinions were facts. And we see that this guy was not just instrumental in the creation of this specific species of think tank, but indeed instrumental in the concept of think tanks overall. And, we've talked about this off air a time or two, but if the dice had rolled slightly differently, your faithful correspondents may well have been in think tanks now. instead of doing our little show.
Oh, not me. They would never let me in one of those
They would
things.
get you. No, they would get you. They would want you.
They'd be like, you have to think in here, Frederick. And I'd be like, oh, sorry.
I'd make it a condition for hiring me. I'd be like, no,
They've got what do they call this? A style? No, a unique approach, I guess. It's their strategic model. Coach, compete, celebrate, trademark.
That is the weirdest Olive Garden I have ever heard of.
You coach others, then you compete out there on the gridiron, and when you're done, you throw that Gatorade on your coach. See, it's all circular.
And now, like, what is the complex acronym for celebrate, right? Everybody tell us what celebrate really means. We also want to shout out one last thing about Fisher, little known story. He is a failed turtle farmer.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you want to be fun at parties, especially at an Atlas Network sponsored soiree, ask them about the turtle farm.
Man,
I don't know. It's an episode in the future, though. We still have to do Project 2025.
Oh, man. Can't wait for that one. He said again, AI. I said it sarcastically.
Again, sarcastically, in any language. And with that, we're going to pause for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more messages from our fellow listeners.
And we've returned, and we're jumping to ye old phone lines. We got a message recently from Fun Crusher. Uh-oh. Oh, boy. We're in for it. Let's see what Fun Crusher has to say.
Hey, gang. You can call me Fun Crusher. This is something that might be its own episode, or it might just be a segment. I don't know, because I haven't really looked into it. But here in beautiful Austin, Texas, there was recently, within the last year, I want to say, maybe 2 years, a series of deaths that were like all kind of like young professional men who drowned in Town Lake, which is our little section of the Colorado River. And the conspiracy is that these deaths were actually the work of a serial killer, and that the city, for whatever reason, is calling them accidental. They all happened in the same kind of section of downtown Austin, where there's like a lot of nightlife, and the theory is that these guys are being drugged and then chucked into the drink by the supposed killer. Now, again, this is all hearsay. This is all rumor. This is all just word on the street. This is my girlfriend's Uber driver's brother, cousin, I don't know, was a victim. This is just, I haven't looked into it at all. I'm leaving that up to you guys if you want to. But ask pretty much anyone around Austin if they've heard of the Rainey Street Ripper. And most people have heard something or other about it. So maybe something to look into. Thanks for everything y'all do. Peace.
Fun Crusher indeed. Thank you so much for taking the time to call in, sir. Matt, initial reactions would be this reminds me a little bit of the smiley face theories. Remember
a lot.
Those?
Yeah. I just want to check. We haven't covered this, right? This specific.
We have not covered the Rainey Street Ripper allegations.
Okay. Again, it does sound so familiar to those other cases. And I know people have called in before about other towns where there's been a killer. I think somebody did mention Austin specifically as like a place where there were potentially some bodies being found, because this has been going on for over 22, 23 months now. I've got an article up here. There's one thing just to point out here, Fun Crusher. You said Town Lake, and maybe that's what it's called where you are, or what's
Lady
referenced?
Bird Lake.
Lady Bird Lake is what I'm seeing in all the reporting, and they're reporting for 22 months since July 2022. There have been 12 bodies, at least 12 bodies that have been recovered from this central Texas lake and in the immediately surrounding area, like the land around the lake. This is nuts. Several were found in April 2024, and it dates all the way back to July 2022. You can find a list of names of the 12 people, of the bodies that have been recovered. Each one is a separate story that we would have to look into, I think, for a larger episode if we wanted to really do this. It is very, very odd. People are reporting on it everywhere. Apparently the public in the area, a lot like yourself and the people around you, Fun Crusher, they're nervous about it. Doesn't feel good when that many bodies are being recovered in a lake right by you. The theories, as you stated, possible serial killer or a group of people who are, maybe robbing people like we did in that story in Atlanta recently or in New York, where individuals going out for drinks were getting drugged and robbed and sometimes killed. Maybe there's something like that happening. It's really scary. There's one story from Fox 7 Austin that is detailing a specific family of one of the victims saying, hey, authorities, police, we need you to look into these various hypotheses, the theories that are coming up to put an end to this, because this is unacceptable. And we are not only scared, we want to know what the heck happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for anyone unfamiliar, the idea of the smiley face murder theory, which I think both of us instantly thought of this when we heard this story. The smiley face murder theory is the idea that in certain parts of the United States, multiple deaths of young men that have been recorded or reported as drownings are indeed the result of homicide, possibly due to the predation of a serial killer or group of murderers. We can say at the very beginning that it is quite rare for the things that we call serial killers, which I do not consider people. It is quite rare for those entities to cooperate. They're a bit egoistic in that regard. In terms of Lady Bird Lake and the idea of the Rainey Street Ripper, you can find statements from the Austin Police Department. Like, this is active investigation. You can find any number of locals who are talking with great concern about what exactly has happened to these innocent people. Now, obviously, let's get it out of the way. It is completely possible for somebody to fall into a body of water, a lake, a river, an ocean, whatever, and to die, right? It is entirely possible for those deaths to occur accidentally. The question here is whether there is someone actively committing homicides. And you can go to any number of outlets now, especially in the past, honestly, in the past few months. I'm seeing stuff from February 2024. I'm seeing things from a few years earlier. Just a month ago, the Daily Mail, surely the stellar reporting source in all of the United Kingdom. I'm kidding. If there is a language translation app currently deployed, please note I said that sarcastically. You can see maps of people who have disappeared. Most recently, like dating back to 2022, so several years, but also the scuttlebutt says far before then. And we've spent time in Austin, Matt. We've had boots on the ground.
Well, on Rainey Street. This is where South by occurs. Yes. Mm-hmm. We ate at the IHOP that's right at the end of Rainey Street and Driscoll. Yes, we are highly aware of this. And I'm looking for Lady Bird Lake just to make sure I understand how far that is away from here. Right. And it's basically the Colorado River that has been dammed up just a little bit, I guess, or stopped somewhere down North Pleasant Valley Road, it looks like. It's right there by Rainey Street. You could basically follow Rainey Street near down to the Rainey Dumpster Rental, Austin. And you could be in that, at least that part of the Colorado River that then dumps into the lake.
So going back to, now that we have the benefit of the map, what we can see is there is a stretch of Colorado River, right, that has clearly become a big part of Austin, right? It's the place where the tourists go. And if you look at this map from, again, I'm going to go back to the Daily Mail here. If you look at this map in the reporting, what you can see is a clear note of the identity of people who've died, the time or the day their body was found, and the address of where the body was discovered. And so we'll get back to this one at the end, but they're clearly, I don't want to say immediately that there's a murderer about that's targeting people, but there are clearly people dying along this stretch of river, right?
That's correct. If you want to look more into this, there's apparently a bartender somewhere in Austin that claims they have spoken with this, quote, Rainey Street killer. It's like a social post. Who knows if it's real or not? Hopefully it's being fully investigated. But we're going to keep an eye on this, and it might be worth our time to go through some of this in a deeper way. So thank you so much, Fun Crusher, for crushing the fun and that voicemail. We'll be right back with more messages from you.
And we have returned another piece of correspondence before we get to some letters from home. We're going to hear from Little Bit Space, who says the following: "Hi guys, I just finished your episode on online pornography. Very dark stuff. Little Bit Space, we agree. But, says Little Bit Space, that's not why I'm emailing you. At the beginning of the episode, you mentioned ASCII art and described it as a block of text characters, usually shared on meme and text forums. Noel specifically mentioned spacing, but spacing is not typically fiddled with. ASCII art is most commonly drawn using a monospaced font, although gatekeepers want to dictate which fonts are allowed. It's a long story. The way you speak about it, and then we're going to paraphrase this part, Little Space says we basically need to learn more.
About the art and the scene.
The art and the scene. And Little Space continues.
I'm not the best person to educate you on this topic, but I know the basics. First, ASCII art is one of the main genres of text mode arts, and under ASCII art goes lots of different subgenres, usually restricted to a specific retro computing system, such as Commodore 64 or Amstrad. Yes, we are aware of the Commodore 64 ASCII. That is very cool. Secondly, you should draw a line between ASCII and ASCII art, as they are very distinct from each other. I happen to be an artist working on this very medium and see lots of ASCII people call art. The subgenres I work in typically are modern ASCII, font choice not restricted to hardware fonts, and width not limited to 80, haters will hate, PETSCII, the Commodore 64 ASCII, so to speak, and custom PETSCII, with a custom 8-bit font. Okay. Anyhow, text mode arts is a scene that's alive and kicking, and you can make real art using ASCII, not just some meme forum content.
Yeah, and I think there's a solid point there. One cannot dictate the medium of art, right? So Little Bit Space ends with, you can find me with the handle Little Bit Space. And they have any number of ways to get in touch with them. They want to be easy to find online. We thought that was an interesting point because ASCII holds a great deal of nostalgia for many of us in the crowd. It reminds me a little bit, Matt, of the fantastic work. I hope this is not a hot take, but the fantastic work I've seen with Lego bricks, you know, when people make phenomenal sculptures using Lego. So we really appreciate your time, Little Bit Space. We also want to hear and see and witness the works of art that you have created, fellow conspiracy realists. So please do send those to us. Email us, drop us a line on the internet, give us a call. We'll tell you how to find us at the end. But we thought that for this evening, we might wrap up with a little bit of a letter from home from our pal Wayne. We all remember Wayne.
Oh, Wayne, former security guard, Magic the Gathering enthusiast, married
Wayne.
guy?
Classic Wayne. Let's not jinx him.
Wayne, I don't know if you're married yet or if you're just fiancéed. I'm not sure.
You're talking to Wayne.
Betrothed. Yeah, I'm not sure.
So everybody else, please listen in. This is a nice little letter from home we got from our pal Wayne.
Stuff that I want you to know. This is stuff that I want you to sandwich. I want to apologize to Ben, even though Matt's probably hearing this one. But Ben, if you're listening to this guy, I always assumed Matt was the one listening, so I always kind of had him as my audience. But you probably listen to all my calls, you're like, who the heck is this guy? Thinking that only Matt listens and just hung up immediately, which I wouldn't blame. But if indeed Ben is listening to this, yeah, please, I accept my apology. Second, I'm listening to the scopolamine episode. Scopolamine, the drug one, the one that makes you susceptible. If you were to hit yourself with scopolamine in a defensive act to say that you were on scopolamine, couldn't they just ask you if you did that? And you'd be compliant, be like, yeah, it was me. You know, like if it makes you susceptible to persuasion, I mean, I don't know if it also tells you the truth, or it makes you tell the truth, but I don't know. It just seems like there might be some holes in this defensive play. Either way, have a lovely time. Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Oh, but no apologies necessary. We're just glad that you made it, like everybody else, hoping you have safe travels. And man, what a good reminder. What a nice cold shower refresher on our earlier joke about whether or not you could drug yourself to get out of awkward social situations, right? Because they would ask, you know, did you do Datura? And you'd be like, yeah, maybe, I guess.
Did you hit yourself in the noggin? Yup.
So that's our friendly reminder not to drug yourself to get out of unpleasant conversations. If the police come knocking, or if Atlas Network sends some folks to your door, you can't say, hold on a moment, let me take this amnesiac serum or whatever, which I don't know whether that's a thing.
Yeah, like that brings you right back. So you get your memories all back?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because many years ago, I was in a situation and I thought, you know, there's an insidious product you could sell. A lot of people, especially in the West, seem to sit through parts of their life, parts of their day-to-day life, just get a participation grade. You know what I mean? You got to wait in line, or you got to sit around and have a meeting where people are going to say all the same stuff they've told you before. I wondered whether people would buy some kind of product or service that let you just do that participation grade, that freed you up to check all the boxes in a social interaction, but put your mind somewhere else, like automating your physical presence. I think it would work. I also think it's evil. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
No, thanks. I want to be in the moment with people I'm around, Ben. I think that would be lovely. I'm usually stuck in my own head doing the other thing when I'm doing what you're describing. So I've already given myself this dang whatever it is that we're thinking about here. And I wish I could be more present.
Present in the moment.
Yeah, just like this moment now. Because I'm over here looking up sandwiches in Chicago, something called the Gym Shoe, just because I wanted to make a note about Wayne's moniker he uses, stuff they don't want you to sandwich. Dang.
Well, that's why we get letters from home. It's a good check-in. Folks, if you are having those difficult, strange, awkward conversations, it is better to be in the moment. I guess I'm what they would call happy to have not sold some sort of evil product or service that lets people escape those moments, that gives you that participation grade.
They're called a cell phone, by the way.
Although, funny story, there was a company, I think in South Korea for a few years, where if you had to fire someone, or you had to quit your job, or you had to break up with a romantic partner, You could call this company and they would send someone to do it for you.
That's a sketch, right? I've seen that.
It was a real service for a minute, but I think it was kind of evil. You know what I mean? That's somehow worse than breaking up with someone via text.
Yeah.
Hi, we've never met, but you know Claudia, right? Well, she's done. Anyway, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Here's the $5 she owed you.
Here's the $5 she owed you.
Your stuff's outside your apartment.
Her stuff is outside your apartment. I guess the last thing we'd say is we asked for some funniest reptile pictures, and we got a bunch of them. Matt, my favorite is probably from our pal Darcy.
Darcy sent us a picture of what appears to be the actor Marty Friedman, though I may be wrong, Darcy. I'm not sure. It looks as though it's a picture of Marty Friedman in a film that I cannot identify, though I probably should be able to.
So we've confirmed at least that the guy is not a reptile, technically, or no. Where are we going with this one?
Yeah, I don't think he's a reptile, but I think it's a play on. Often if you see a social media post and say, hey, reptilian confirmed, it has something to do with the eyes, or the eyes are not circular. They've got the slit kind of like a cat or like a reptile. But in this case, it's just eyes that are clearly not going in the same direction, let's say, and bulging.
Yeah. We've been getting a lot of feedback on our reptilian conspiracy episode. And one of the things that gave me my version of endless delight was how many people wrote to us and said, hey, the following insert celebrity here describes themselves as a reptile, which is interesting, but also I have not found a case of a celebrity claiming to be a reptilian and also getting any kind of medical test to confirm that. I think maybe, and not to sound like a jerk, I think maybe they're saying it for attention.
Oh dear.
I know. That's our hot shot, I guess.
Boom.
And we have so much more to follow up on. We're going to call it an evening for now and get back to some crazy work that we hope you enjoy in the future. We have a long conversation ahead of us, perhaps about Job's daughters. A lot of responses to that. Mysterious holes, reptilian conspiracies, and much, much more. We can't wait for you to join us on the journey. We try to be easy to find online: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, X.com, etc. All the hits, or just, go to your favorite crossroads at midnight, say the right words. We'll find you. You can also call us on the phone.
Yes, our number is 1-833-STDWYTK. When you call in, give yourself a cool nickname and let us know if we can use your name and message on the air if you got more to say than can fit in that couple of minutes. Why not instead send us a good old-fashioned email? We are
the entities that read every single email we get. It makes our evening when you, specifically you, write to us. Give us the links, give us the photos, share the funniest reptile you've seen. We can't wait to read it all. Be well aware, sometimes the void writes back. Conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.